This is Honors Algebra 2 Pre-Calculus. We're doing 10.3 in Pre-Calc, which is ellipses. This is example 1. So I've given you the equation of ellipse in a standard form. X minus 1 quantity squared over 16 plus y plus 2 quantity squared over 4 equals a 1. And we're going to graph this with the center, the vertices, the foci, and the non-vertices. So we're going to see what this looks like, right? So first thing I need to do is identify what the center is. So remember that this is x minus h, so h is a 1, and then y minus k. So my k must be a negative 2, because it's supposed to be y minus k, right? If this was minus k, then minus k is the same as positive 2, which means my center is at 1 comma negative 2, right? So that's the first piece of information, right? That's the first thing I have to figure out. The second thing I have to figure out is that because the x squared is over the bigger denominator, right, the bigger number, 16, I have a horizontal major axis, right? So what this is going to look like is one of these long skinny ones, right? It's going to look like a long skinny one, right? And I can see that from that, I can see x is on top of 16. So basically a is 4, because it's 16 square is a squared, right? So a is 4, and it's in the x direction, right? And b should be a 2, right? Because 4 is 2 squared in the y direction. So just knowing that alone is enough to help me do a lot of this graphing. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to have to draw a graph where 1 comma negative 2 is sort of in the center of my graphing, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sure. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, great. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. So I know 1 comma negative 2 is supposed to be my center, right? From that center, right, 1 comma negative 2, I have to go in the x direction 4 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a vertex. From the center, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the other vertex. So there are my two vertices, right? That's going to be my major axis, right? My minor axis, which has the non-vertices, which is totally a Hoganism, right? I'm going to go up 2 units, 1, 2, from the center. That's not a vertex, right? And I'm going to go down 2 units, not a vertex, okay? So now I can actually draw the ellipse right now by connecting those 4 points as smoothly as I can, right? There's my ellipse. The only thing I didn't label on here was the foci, because the foci are the hardest thing to label. They are invisible points that don't show up on your graph. So in order to find the foci, remember that a squared minus b squared is c squared. Well, that's going to be 16 minus 4 is c squared. So I'm going to get 12 is c squared. So my c is going to be the square root of 12 because it's positive. C is a distance, so I'm going to go each direction. You don't have to know what the square root of 12 is. You can type it in a calculator, but what's important is that I want you to notice that that's bigger than square root of 9 and smaller than square root of 16, right? So it has to be between 3 and 4. So the reason I mention that is if I were stuck doing this and I have to plot it on a graph, I don't care how accurate you are, but like 3.5-ish is about right? So I'm going to go from the center, 1, 2, 3.5. So my focus is way out here, right? And then 1, 2, 3.5-ish, my focus is out there, right? Now, if you were asked to find the coordinates of all these, which we can do real quick, if I ask you to find the coordinates, well, then you have to be a little bit more specific. So if I ask you to find the coordinates of all of these, right, my center, we already established was 1 comma negative 2, right? My vertices, right? Essentially, for my vertices, I moved right and left 4 units. So right 4 would be a 5 comma negative 2, and left 4 would be a negative 3 comma negative 2, right? My non-vertices, I moved from this 1 comma negative 2, I moved up 2 or down 2. Well, up 2 would be a 1 comma 0, right? Because I'm adding to the vertical coordinate now, the second coordinate. And down 2 would be a 1 comma negative 4, right? And if I'm asked to find my foci, even though I approximated root 12 as a 3.5-ish, right? Because I'm graphing it on a graph, it's smarter to leave this as a 1 plus or minus a root 12 comma negative 2. Or you could write it as 2 different points, 1 plus root 12, 1 minus root 12. So if you like this better, you could have written it as 2 points. 1 plus root 12 comma negative 2, and 1 minus root 12, comma negative 2, right? And that's really how I got both of these, right? I did 1 plus 4, 1 minus 4. I did negative 2 plus 2, negative 2 minus 2, right? So that's sort of the gist of how we graph an ellipse.